tell people anything you want to tell them. Tell them your name, your pronouns. If you want your pronouns. What year are you, and what's your major? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Go, let's go to the
Okay.
start.
Yes, yes. So, my name is Daniela Rodriguez. I am from the San Fernando Valley. I am a third year at UCLA, but I'm actually a senior, which means that I get to graduate a year early. And later on, I'll talk about how I was able to do that. Um, Pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a first generation college student, which means that I am the first to go to college from my parents. So my parents didn't attend college. So my sisters and I are the first ones to enter that space in our family. I'm a sociology major, and I'm also I'm minoring in international migration studies, which I think is a really good blend of my interests.
What made you choose like sociology? Like, did you just like wake up one day and you were like, boom, I'm gonna be a sociology major? Is it? Yeah. And
Um,
why did you choose that minor too? Because honestly, I don't remember you telling us that you had a minor. So even that's a new thing for me.
yeah,
Or maybe
yeah,
you
okay.
mentioned it, but you never like fully told
hmm
us like your minor.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, like now that I think about it, because in high school, in high school, when I entered ninth grade, I was set on becoming a doctor or just like working in the health field, medical field. And so in my high school, like I was like, I guess you could say that I was like in the like pre-med track, in the sense that I was taking all the science classes. Made sure that I entered that I was in the AP calculus course, that
Mm-hmm.
I was in the physics class, which was optional at the time for my high school. Um, I made sure that everything that I did was gonna help me prepare and become a good applicant, a strong applicant for colleges and apply for science programs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the whole time I was like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. Like everything else is just kind of like cool, but not what my plan is. And so, um, and I think part of that was because how my high school was oriented. It was very math and science focused. The arts said those, wasn't really something that was emphasized. And so just naturally, I guess that seemed like my only option. Not my only option, but it was the prominent option that was constantly present in my life. And so it wasn't and so I was also, because I wanted to be a strong applicant, I took AP classes and community college classes while I was in high school. And my very last course that I took from community college, it was my first semester of senior year.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time I was also applying to colleges. So I had already submitted some of my college applications, and I think it was like mostly my CSUs. So my CSUs, which are the California State University schools, I applied as a biology major,
Wow.
and yeah, and I was waiting for my use. I was going to submit my University of California applications and my private school applications until the very end of the application cycle, because they required more writing and there was more time consuming than the CSU applications. So I still had time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the same time, again, I was also taking my last class, which was a intro to sociology, community college class, and I just loved it. Like I don't know, it was, first of all, I mean, the professor taught it very well. I don't even remember his name, but just the topics were something that I had always been interested in. Like I loved history, but I didn't know why. I didn't know why I loved it. So I was so drawn to it. And then when I took sociology, the topics that we were discussing, like social stratification, racism, gender roles, different sociological theories, it all connected. It was like, this is a subject that talks about my experience. This is a subject where I get to not just study, but really apply to my life and see and kind of like connect myself to others. And I just love that aspect. And I've always been a very participatory student. Like I love participating, I love engaging. And that was the first time where I realized that I not only I not only knew what I was saying, but I loved what I was saying. I loved what I was hearing from my peers. It was just a space that I didn't know I loved. And so then at that, I mean, I was so conflicted because I was like, this whole time I had prepared myself for almost 4 years for this one thing. And then at the very end, I had like this epiphany and it was like, no, you know, your direction is somewhere else. You belong, you need to do something else with your life to serve other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a hard decision at first, but then I knew that I had to make the change. And so when I submitted my UC applications, I applied as a sociology major. So half of my applications were biology and the other half were sociology. And so that's kind of how I came to choose my major because um, I just got lucky and I was exposed to it very early on. Otherwise, I would have gone to a university as a hard science major, and I don't know if I would have loved it. I think in the long run, I would have gone to university and changed my major. I know I would have because I would have because that's another thing. Like at UCLA, I would imagine in a lot of campuses, you really get to like explore a lot of social justice spaces.
Mm-hmm.
At least at UCLA, that was true for me. And I feel like if I would have gone to UCLA as a biology major, for example, I would have been exposed to those social justice spaces, and I would have been like, yeah, this is not for me, and I would have jumped to sociology for sure.
Yeah.
But that's how I chose my major. I've stuck to it. I never changed it because I knew what I wanted to do. So all of my senior year, I like researched UCLA majors, UCLA programs, UCLA minors, everything sociology related. And so when I came to UCLA, I made a plan of what I wanted to do, what my goals were academically and personally. Um, so I stuck to it and I didn't change it.
But you said you never thought of like changing majors, right? But was there ever like a time where you were like, maybe I should try something else? Maybe I should like, maybe test the waters out a little bit. Was that ever a
Yeah.
time? Because at least for me, like I went in as undeclared and I've been exploring so many things. And like I said this so many times, like I've changed my major so many times, or like my focus of study so many times. Um, yeah, did that ever come up with you?
So I never wanted to change it, but I always wanted to add to my major. So I always was like, I took a labor studies class and I was like, dang, it would have been really cool to like have double majored in labor studies and sociology. And then I took a Chicano class and I was like, dang, it would have been really cool to have triple majored. And
Oh my
then I took a history class and I was like, that's really cool too. So it was never that I wanted to change it as much as it was about adding it as an additional major or a minor. So that was it for me because again, a lot of people like don't like general education requirements, GEs, because a lot of people are like, well, I'm a pre-med student, like I know what I want to do. What's the point of taking a history class or vice versa?
God.
I can't speak on those people's experiences, but at least for me, I actually enjoyed my GEs because I think part of education is, yes, preparing ourselves to like go out into the world and being employed and contributing to our society, but through a job. But the other value of education that at least I take it to be is just enriching yourself. And I've always loved learning, and so every time I took, even when I had to take like my science classes, my science GEs,
Mhm.
they were more challenging because I mean there were classes that I wasn't really passionate about at the beginning, but I learned so much from them, and it was those experiences that I was like, okay, dang, I should have minored in this, or I should have attended more events. where they about the subject. So yeah, I think for me it was always just about making sure that I took advantage of the opportunity that I that I was blessed with. You know, the fact that I could go to a university like UCLA is like, okay, I can't double major. I mean, I could have, but I didn't. At the end, I chose not to. Um, but even though I couldn't, I chose not to major. I was like, okay, I really like history. So when there's a history event, like a person coming over to UCLA to give a talk about a history, about their book on history or whatever, I would attend. So it was just like making sure that I took advantage of that educational opportunity in that sense, at least.
Was UCLA always like your first choice? Like when
Yeah.
you thought of like, because obviously like you say you applied to CSU's privates and UC, um, and was UCLA like your first choice, or was it the one that you were like, nah, this one comes with a better package? How did you
Mhm.
think? How did you go about like deciding that? Because for me, it was my dream school. If I heard that I got into UCLA, I'm going there. Like I'm not changing my mind whatsoever. Like how was
Mhm.
that for you? Yeah.
So I guess for me, I guess I just want, like, before I answer the question, I really want to emphasize that in a lot of ways, I did, again, I came from like a low income um high school and K to 12 school. Um, and my high school didn't have a lot of resources, but in a lot of ways I also had to like acknowledge that I was also very blessed in other ways and very lucky in other ways, because I got to go to college campuses throughout California. I got to have that, and a lot of folks don't get that opportunity. And so because I had the opportunity, I got to go visit like the Bay Area, and I got to visit Stanford and Berkeley,
Ooh.
um, Cal State Monterey Bay, and all these different campuses across California. And so I got to see what my options were, what I liked, what I didn't like.
Mm.
And so I visited Stanford University, Berkeley, UC Santa Barbara when I was in 8th grade. And I visited Stanford, and it was just like that. I was like, that was a school of my dreams. I loved it there. I saw myself there.
Mm.
Oh, I can still remember like the feeling of when I visited there, because I just loved it.
Mhm.
And so I left that trip, and I was like, okay, my goal is to get into that school and go there and enroll. Um, and so obviously time passed, and when I was a senior, um, I I applied to Stanford and all these other schools, and so Stanford was actually my first choice.
Mhm.
Everything else was gonna be like second to Stanford. Like I knew that I would have qualified for financial aid, so that wasn't gonna be the problem for me. It was just getting in.
Yeah.
I didn't get in.
Oh.
I didn't get in. I mean, I didn't cry. I wasn't like devastated. I was sad because again, I had set this goal for myself that um I didn't achieve, and I didn't take it, and like I wasn't devastated. I was just sad, but I knew that that wasn't the end of it, because I had gotten into um other great schools. I had options, and I think that was also something I was like, okay, I didn't get into my dream school, but at least other schools want me. And I think I was like, okay, you can't always get what you want, but it's like taking advantage and what you do with opportunities that really like transform who you are and how you contribute.
Mhm.
So I had gone into UCLA. I got into I applied to 4 UCs. I got into all of them, UCLA included. And UCLA did give me the best financial aid package. And um, for me, that was a big deal, because, again, I was the first one to go to college. And unfortunately, my high school never talked about financial aid with us. It was always like, just get into the school and you'll figure out how to pay later on. That was not that was bad advice. And so, because I mean, that really freaked me out. I saw all these numbers and I was like, how am I going to pay this off? and then UCLA gave me the best option. So I was like, okay, well, for me, it was a given. But it's so weird how things work out, because I always tell this story because I, again, I didn't get into Stanford, but UCLA gave me the full ride from all the schools. They gave me a full ride. UCLA, I wanted to go far away. Like I wanted to go to the Bay Area. I wanted to like just get out of like my hometown in the San Fernando Valley.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to I just wanted something completely different. I chose UCLA, but then I loved it. I loved the fact that I was close enough to visit home on the weekends.
Hmm.
Um, and so at the end, like my first year, I couldn't say I loved UCLA. I was like, it's okay. It's like I like it. I like my
That's all
experience.
right.
But now I'm a senior, and I can honestly say I loved UCLA, because not UCLA itself, but because of the connections and relationships that I made. Um, but to answer your question, I chose UCLA, and I feel like I think I was meant to I think I was meant to go to UCLA
Meant to
because
be.
yeah, I think I was because I my I visit a lot of college campuses, like I mentioned, but my parents could never attend, like they couldn't accompany me to these trips
Yeah.
because my dad worked. um, my mom couldn't travel with me, but when I was in seventh grade, I visited UCLA for the first time. No, in sixth grade for the first time as a field trip. And my mom was able to go, and like out of the blue, she accompanied me. And I have pictures of like me at UCLA as a sixth grader with my mom. And so I think about all those things, and it was like I was meant to go there. I don't know why or how, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna go there. That's what the world is trying to tell me. And so I chose to go to UCLA, and I don't regret my decision at all.
Well, I'm glad you came to UCLA, because if you wouldn't have come to UCLA, I would have never met you. Because I remember that. I remember like okay. So the way I met you was because I DM'd you on Instagram because I thought you
Hmm.
were in my math class.
Yes,
Told you, I think you're in my math class, but you're like, no.
I'm in your other class.
Yeah. But yeah, but no, but honestly, like one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you to this Zoomcast is because I want to show you off. You're like you're like a role model, at least for me. Like I kind of look up to you, like in a sense that like you've gotten like 4.0 GPAs before, and like you're also like a Regent scholar, and like for some people that are like out, like for people that are out there, like even me, like I still don't fully understand what a Regent scholar is. Can you talk a little bit about like what a Regent scholar is, and like what are some of like the perks? What are some of the good and the bad things, or like some of the
Mhm.
things that you struggled with being a Regent scholar?
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I want to start off by saying like, yeah, I think like I'm also really happy that I got to UCLA. I went to UCLA because, I didn't make a ton of like friends. I
Yeah,
made a couple. I was very selective about that just because of the nature of the campus. But,
yeah,
like you and like my other close friends, like I developed those friendships, and I really value those. So I'm glad that like you value our friendship the way I value ours. So I
yeah,
guess I want to
yeah.
start
Of
off by
course. I
saying,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, why not? You know, like yeah, you're one of like my first friends here, so
Mhm.
I have to have you on here. Like, come on. I have to show you off. Like honestly, like whenever I talk to people, I always tell them like, oh yeah, one of my friends is a Regent scholar. Yeah, she's got it in 4.0 GPAs. I always brag about you because yeah, you deserve the recognition. And sometimes people don't give you that recognition, and I know sometimes it's about like being humble because but sometimes it's good to acknowledge your accomplishments. Yeah.
But yeah, so the Regents, honestly, to be honest, I don't really know exactly what the Regent scholarship is.
No, it's all
It's
right.
just it's just so vague. And I think that's for a lot of reasons. So so I applied to UCLA and my UCs and all my college campuses.
Mhm.
And then UCLA released its admissions decision around like middle of March. But I got an email from UCLA around like late April, early March, so this was before admissions had rolled out, and they emailed me saying like, hey, like you qualify for this scholarship. Um, it was just so vague. It's like, hey, you apply for the scholar, you qualify for the scholarship, apply to it, and if you get admitted, like it'll come, and you get the scholarship, then it's a deal. And if not, well, you just don't get the scholarship or you don't get admitted. So I honestly was just like, okay, I mean, I need money, so might as well just apply for everything I can.
Yeah, yeah.
I had no idea what I was signing myself up for. Um, I tried to do some research online, but again, I typed in like Regent scholarship, Regent scholars. It was very vague, and so I was like, it's a scholarship, so I'm gonna take it. And so I applied to it. It was like two questions. Like one question was the first question was like, what like you could choose like one class to enroll in, what would you enroll in and why? So I remember writing about how like I would enroll in a philosophy class because I don't even know why. I still have my essay, but I remember writing about a philosophy class. I don't know why I wrote that, but I did. And then the other question was I can't remember, but it was something about like it was like, what do I want to do in the future? So my career, and how would going to UCLA allow me to like make sure that how would UCLA ensure that how would going to UCLA help me achieve that goal? That was the question.
Mhm.
So again, I was just like, okay, like I'll write it. I'll have and I think I needed like a letter or two of recommendation. So I had my English teacher, who was a UCLA alumni, write me that letter of recommendation. I was just so nonchalant, and it was like, weird. It's weird thinking about it now because it's like, dude, it's a Regent scholarship, and I took it like whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird, but it was my fault. I didn't know, and so I applied, and then when I got admitted, I got the email like, hey, you got into UCLA, got the letter, and then right away I was able to check my financial aid package, and so I had already seen other schools, so other financial aid packages, and for the most part they were pretty similar. Like it was like an average like amount for each school.
Hmm.
So I was expecting the same for UCLA, but I literally saw zeros like across the list, like, and
Damn.
I was like, I had to refresh a couple times, like I think there's something wrong with this page, like there's all zeros on it. And then I was like, what does this mean? And I remember going to my mom, like, because my dad wasn't home because my dad was at work.
Hmm.
So I went to my mom, I'm like, I got into UCLA, but I don't think I have to pay anything. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah. And again, my mom also didn't understand because, I mean, she didn't go to college, and she didn't, like, we were both in the same boat. We were both trying to figure out this whole system and how this whole college thing works. So I was like, okay, maybe it's a mistake. I'll just go to school and I'll ask like one of my teachers, maybe they'll confirm with me. And yeah, like sure enough, like I had gotten the Regent scholarship that covers for all tuition and fees. And if you go on their website, it's super vague, but it says that they'll cover your tuition and fees plus any unmet need, which basically means that if you still owe like housing, like a $5,000 for housing per quarter, it essentially covers for it.
Wow.
But it was weird because I did my research, like, so I got the scholarship and I was like, is this legitimate? Like, is this gonna be true all 4 years that I'm at UCLA? I didn't want to accept the scholarship and then have a full ride my first year, and then my second year I had to pay all this money that
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for. So I wanted, before I committed myself, I needed to make sure. So I went on like Facebook groups and I like looked up everything I could. And some Regent scholars had to pay out of pocket and some didn't. So honestly,
I don't know.
I, it's very inconsistent. They're super vague about it, and I think part of it is because they don't want to say it's a free ride, and then that's not like true for everybody, so I think they're just vague about it on purpose, just because they don't want to promise something that they can't hold themselves accountable to in the future. Um but so at least in my case, I think it's because, I don't know, I honestly don't know, but for most students that I know who are Regent scholars, um it covers all, if not most, of their financial need. So that was the biggest plus for me. Like you get like you're guaranteed a parking pass. So it's not
I've
free,
seen
but
that.
it's
I've seen that. I'm like, damn.
yeah, but it's guaranteed. So if I chose to like bring my car to campus, which I didn't because I didn't see the point in it for me at
Yeah.
the time, I would have been guaranteed a spot. Which, if you're not familiar with, UCLA has a lottery every quarter. Um, Maya can attest to that.
Yeah. 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 I had to commute, and actually, like my first quarter, I applied kind of late. In fall, I
Mm,
applied late, and I got like the one my last choice, and I didn't want that, but I was like, you know what, it is what it is. And the second time, they do prioritize carpool people.
that's
So
true.
yeah, I got the one I wanted, but then things
Mhm.
happened, and yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a huge thing for UCLA students. That's a huge perk. Another one is you're guaranteed 4 years of housing, on-campus housing. So at UCLA, you're only guaranteed 3 years of housing. That doesn't mean, I mean, you can still apply for your fourth year, but it's not guaranteed. But as a Regent Scholar, you're guaranteed all 4 years. The only like nuance is that if you leave your, let's say you live on the dorms for your 2 years, for your first and second year, and then your third year you decide to live off campus, that's great. But that if you want to come back your fourth year, you lose that guarantee.
Yeah.
So it needs to be like it needs to be consecutive. And then you get like there's just like a bunch of events as a Regent Scholar. It's very exclusive. um, which brings me to like one of the negative things about it. Oh,
I
another
was
thing.
gonna ask you. I was just gonna ask
Yeah,
you.
yeah. So the last thing before I move on to that section is that you get priority enrollment. So
Ooh.
yeah, so UCLA is it's really tough to get your classes that you want, and I think this is for honestly any campus, but
Hmm.
um, at least at UCLA, which is the experience that I know of, you get like your first pass, which is you can only enroll in 10 units your first pass, I believe, and then your second pass you can enroll up to 19 units. For me, I was a College of Arts and Sciences, so I could enroll up to 19 units. But by then, like most classes are already taken, you have to get on the wait list. It's just it's tough. But as a Regent Scholar, I got to enroll a week early than everybody else on campus, and I was able to enroll up to 13 units. So my first year, I was on that gave me like I was able to enroll in one, if not two, of my classes way before everybody else. And then by the time I got to my upper division courses, which were only 4 units, I was able to enroll in all my classes that I needed for the quarter. My first pass, yeah. And honestly, like it's such a huge perk, but it's also sucks because I just always felt so guilty. I was like, why? Like, what makes me so special from everybody else? Like, I'm not that special. Like, I would have much rather give my priority pass to like somebody else that like like needs a class really bad, for example, and a very impacted course. So I think that's one of the negative things is like the fact that it's just so exclusive and you
But
get all these perks. It's just like, do we really need to have the system of like ranking of who's more deserving of certain things? Like, I don't know, maybe that's just the sociology in me speaking, but I never liked that aspect of it. But I really had no choice, so I had to take advantage of it. And another like negative thing is that because it's so exclusive, and there's this like stereotype or this stigma of about being a Regent Scholar. It's like, oh, they're the nerds, they're like super
I've never heard
privileged.
that. But
Yeah, no, yeah, like yeah, they're like super privileged. They get everything like that they want around. They don't have to struggle at UCLA because they get priority pass. They get all these things, and so there is a lot of times where like when I had peers ask me like, "Oh, when's your first pass?" and I would lie and I would like say like, "Oh, it's like I would like to say it's like my regular first pass," but never said,
you lied
"Oh,
to us.
I said that," because one, there was really like no need to like say that, like it was just no need. Second of all, it was just
Because
I
you're
don't know.
humble.
I wouldn't say humble. It's just Again, I just didn't like the aspect of like
Yeah.
having to like prioritize some students over others. So I think that was a hard part, just dealing with people's stereotypes imposed on me, but then also kind of managing and dealing with my emotions about it, my attitudes towards it. But yeah, definitely huge pluses. If it wasn't for the Regent Scholarship, I think my experience would be much different, for sure. But um, I'm very thankful that somebody in the admissions panel like wanted to offer me that scholarship, and I made sure I made the most out of it. Um, and yeah, that's basically it for the Regents scholarship.
Yeah, was there like any requirements you had to like obtain like throughout your years to keep it, or like was it like, oh, you get it once, you keep it for 4 years no matter what happens? Because I'm sure,
No.
yeah.
Yeah. So again, because it's so exclusive, you can also easily lose it. So I had to have, I think, 3.50 and above.
Mm,
Um, I don't believe it's a quarter. I think it's like at the end of the year. So every year I had to like have this GPA minimum. I also had to um, I don't even remember. I think that was the biggest one. I
yeah,
had to be enrolled in certain amount of units. I think it was like 12 units.
yeah,
But that's like everybody else. So, but it was definitely the GPA that was the biggest requirement. Um, and if you, I don't know, this never happened to me, but if you fell below that like GPA minimum, you would lose your scholarship. And I think you could petition to like explain why you dropped your GPA or what was the circumstances, and then it can like waive your circumstance. But it was just, yeah, it was just that the GPA thing. Yeah, because it's a merit scholarship, so it's based on your grades. Yeah, it wasn't based on financial aid.
yeah. You
Mhm.
want to share like some of your study tips on how you kept your your GPA? Like how did you study? Did you have to stay up sometime?
As a sociology major, all I did was read. Now I like to say I'm a pretty fast reader, just because I've had to learn how to read fast but well. Like you can't just read just to read. You have to like so okay, yeah. So I've had to do a lot of reading, and in my high school I did a lot of reading, but not like a lot of reading, but the type of reading at UCLA is much different because it's more scholarly based, more academic based, more research based, I should say. And so I was like, okay, I know how to read, but how do I read effectively? And so what I did was I bought a planner, which I have right here. So just like, I
You
mean, I
came
bought it, but you could
prepared.
on,
You came prepared.
but I mean, I bought my planners every year, but honestly, you could make your own like it all you need for at least for me. I like to write things in paper. People say I'm a tree killer. Um I'm trying very hard not to, but it's just a custom, but I'm trying, I promise. But whatever works for you. But for me, I would get like a physical planner and write my homework every single day. Um, because at UCLA, it's not like high school where like your teachers are on top of you, like holding you accountable. It's more like you need to know when things are due. And so I would do weekly and monthly planners where like every month I would write like, okay, I have a rough draft due on the 20th of May or whatever. So that way I could look at it and be like, okay, 2 weeks before that deadline, I need to start doing the research or whatever. So that was the point of the monthly planning. And then every week I would write down obviously my homework assignments, but then also preparing for things. So even though my midterm is in 2 weeks, for example, I need to start studying now. So it was just constantly like tying everything together. Like a lot of people like to take it day by day. I
Yeah.
cannot do that. I need to take things month by month,
Mm,
um, because while I mean it does get overwhelming sometimes, and especially in the beginning if you use that strategy, because a lot of people don't like worrying about things that are in the future. And I respect that, but for me at least, I I just can't. I need to know what's coming up so I can prepare for it. So for that's what I would do. And because I had to do a lot of reading, it was just making sure that I read before my first lecture of the upcoming week. So for example, my discussions were basically based on the reading. So I had to make sure that I came to the discussions ready to participate, ask questions about the readings, because that's what I was going to be tested on in the long run.
Yeah.
So for me, I liked, if I had class on Tuesday, my first class on Tuesday, I would make sure that I read by Monday night of the next week. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because by Monday night, I would write down questions that I wanted to ask in discussion. So I just prepared myself in that way, because I never liked being the student that shows up to class and or lecture discussion and have nothing to participate, nothing to contribute, nothing to ask, even if I was going to be wrong, because that's the point of learning. You need to make mistakes, you need to ask questions to learn. Um, and so that's what I would do. I would just make sure I did that. Um, but like I mentioned, sometimes my exams weren't writing. Like sometimes my exams, most of the time, they were essays or written quizzes.
Mm-hmm.
But every now and then, especially when I had to take like my prereqs or my GEs, I had to take multiple choice exams based on like science and math, and that kind of studying is very different. So what you'll learn is that for every class, you have to change your study habits, because every professor is different, every class is structured differently. For the most part, I stayed the same, but every once in a while I had to adjust. So when it came to those exams and classes where the exams were more multiple choice based and or math based, it was all about practice. So making sure that I did the problem sets every day until I got them right. Going to office hours, I think that's the biggest one. Like they're they're literally getting paid to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
Go to them. That was something I learned a little late. But yeah, like I had a professor once who I would literally like do my homework ahead of time and then show up to discussion or to office hours and be like, hey, I tried doing this problem. I couldn't get it. How do you suggest I do it? And they would help me through the problem. So it's like not all professors or TAs will be like that, but I think yeah, they won't, not all. But I think the point is to show that you're trying. And if you make mistakes, like that's how you're going to learn. So my study habits were very like meticulous. Like some people thought, like my roommates, sometimes I felt like they thought I was too like I studied too long, too hard. Like it was extra. But for me it worked. And by extra I mean that like even though I knew it, I made sure I kept studying because I didn't want to like get too confident and then like realize that I didn't really know it. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that was like clear, like if that was clear enough, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that was good. Those are some good tips, and those are
And flashcards. Flashcards are so important. Like I like you like flashcard. That's what I did. Like I either digital flashcards or physical flashcards.
Quizlet.
Like Quizlet, yeah, like yeah, very helpful.
All right. Well, that's thank you for the tips and thank you for sharing how you studied and how you keep your 4.0 GPA, your high GPA. Now just moving on. Now, what are some of like the struggles that you faced at UCLA? And how did you overcome like these struggles? Because obviously, like everyone has struggles, whether you're like a 4.0 student, whether you're a 3.0 student, 2.0 student. Everyone has struggles. What were some of the struggles that you would want to share, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. So um academically, I want to say that I didn't feel like I struggled in that aspect. I think that my high school really prepared me for UCLA. And again, I think if I would have gone into the STEM field, I think my experience would have been much different. I think I would have struggled more because my high school didn't have the resources to have equipped me for that field. Um, but in terms of work ethic, I think my high school really did prepare me for that. So academically, I just felt like college was an extension of high school, because my study habits stayed mostly the same. So academically, I don't think I faced a lot of difficulties in that aspect. For me, honestly, it was more of the emotional challenges, um, that really like impacted my experience. And by that, I will share. I felt like a lot of, even though it was so close to home, and I visited home on the weekends, I definitely got homesick. I didn't think I was going to get homesick, but I did because I didn't realize how I took my parents like care like for granted. I really did. And so when I was at home, I was like, at school, I was like, gosh, I really want to be home. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay,
You're
okay.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, make sure, because yeah, there's some noise. So the homesick was definitely challenging. And then the other part was also, I don't know if this is the right term, but I felt a lot of like guilt in my experience. And by guilt, I mean that I I knew that I worked hard to get to where I was. I knew that I didn't get there by accident, in the sense that I was intentional about what I was doing to get to UCLA. I was intentional about what I was doing at UCLA, but it was more of guilt in the sense that I was having such an amazing experience that I wanted everybody to have the same experience and benefits that I was having. You know, it goes back to the whole Regent Scholars thing where I was like, what makes me so deserving to have all these privileges when I could name dozen plus people off the top of my head that are just as hardworking
Yeah.
and deserve the same, if not more, than I do. And so, I thought about like my friends from high school that worked really hard and they didn't get to where they wanted to, not because they couldn't, but because they were denied those opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt very guilty being at a place like UCLA when, like my parents had to work, like, and almost at no break, just so that I could live at a nice dorm and like be fed all the time. So it was just like constantly like thinking about those things and just that guilt. And it really got to me at some point. Like there was times where I couldn't even like, I didn't even want to do my work, not because it was hard or anything, but because I was like just so caught in like my feelings of like what is my real purpose here? Why do I get to be here and not other people? Eventually, I after a lot of reflecting, I realized that unfortunately the world is that's the way it is, and hopefully, things change in the future. But for now, this is how things are, and so I just have to like tell myself that if I really feel that guilty, if I really feel that upset with the way things are structured, if I'm really upset with the lack of opportunity for others, and if I'm really upset about all these things, then what can I do to change that? And so I was like, okay, my mentality for the most part was just taking like, hey, I'm here, take advantage of the fact that you're here, take advantage of the resources so that I could in the future give back and make sure that more people like me get the same chance. So, just it was hard to come to terms with that, but it is what it is. And so I think like emotionally it's a huge like slap in the face because it was my first time being away from home. It was my first time having to interact with people that looked and acted very different from me.
Yeah.
So just yeah. So socially and emotionally, that was the challenging part. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we're coming towards like the 1 hour mark now. I just
Mhm.
want to know, like, what is next for you? How where do you think you're gonna be going, or where do you want to go? And a year from now, where do you see yourself? I mean, I know I always ask these type of questions, but
You
I
do.
want to know, in a year from now, where will Daniela be? And in like 2 3 years, where will you want to be?
Mhm.
And yeah, just
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So before I answer that question, I really want to make sure that I let your viewers know that I do have regrets in my time at UCLA. Not a lot, and not
But yeah,
like
if you want to talk about
and not
your kids, go for it.
yeah, and not like deep ones or anything like that, but just more of like I really wish I would have taken advantage of so many resources at school.
Mhm,
Um, there's just it's so hard because it's such a huge campus and there's so many things to do, so many clubs, so many everything. Like I literally wanted to do everything. Like I was like, I'm gonna be part of student government. I did that for like a year. I
mhm.
wanted to be part of I wanted to study at DC. I didn't do that because I didn't know who to go to for help. Um, the gym, like it's like they're literally paying. You're gonna literally pay for it. Go, you're paying for it. Like
Yeah,
it's coming out of your pocket. Pay, like go to it. Like I wish I would have done that. I'm like, dang, I should have taken advantage of that.
but I mean, at least you went to it eventually. Because I
I
remember I always
did. No, I
telling y'all,
did.
like, y'all want to go to the gym or something, but nobody wanted to go. I mean,
No, yeah,
at
yeah.
least
And
you
so
went. At least you
that's the thing. Like I went, but not as much as I really wanted to or should have. So
went.
basically, my regrets are just your time there is going to be so short. Like college goes by so quickly, and if you don't like take time to appreciate like where like you're who you're with and just the environment and just that phase in your life, you're gonna miss out on it. And so I mean I don't think I missed out on much, but I do wish I would have like taken advantage of the resources available to me. um and um yeah, I think that, so I just wanted to make sure because
Oh yeah,
yes,
take it away.
so yeah, yeah. It gets very easy to get caught up in your academics, but you need a break. You need to like socialize. You need to go out there. But yeah. But anyways, to answer your question,
Yeah.
so because I'm graduating a year early, which I was only able to do it because of all the EP credits, all the college credits that I took, that like I got rid of a year basically. But so I knew that I wanted to help people. Specifically, my goal in life is to just advance the immigrant rights movement. That's my goal. And so, even though at UCLA I didn't really get involved on campus, I found a lot of opportunities outside of campus. So I actually interned with the Coalition of Humane Immigrant Rights of Los Angeles, among many other internships, but that was the most impactful for me. And so I did that last summer, so the summer before entering my last year at UCLA.
Mhm.
And by then I was like, it was after the internship where I was like, dang, okay, I'm gonna go to law school, I'm gonna become an immigration lawyer, but I don't wanna be a lawyer forever because I don't want to do that, but I want to be a lawyer so that I can get the legal skills and knowledge to go out into the community and be that legal broker between the community and like the oppressive like government agencies. So it's kind of like that's what I want to do, just using that legal knowledge to help the immigrant rights movement. So I mentioned this because I to go to law school you need to take like the LSAT, which is like the exam to enter law school. There's a whole like year that you need to prepare yourself, that you need to prepare. Because I made a decision a little late. Um, I couldn't go to law school. I can't go to law school next school year because I didn't prepare myself and like ahead of time,
Yeah.
which is okay. Like I'm happy that I'm not rushing into it. I feel good about my decisions. Like I've had a lot of people kind of tell me like, "Oh, you're taking a gap year." Oh, it's like that tone of like, "What are you doing with your life?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got that. I've gotten that a lot, but I'm not upset because I know what I'm doing. I know that it's just, it's just a little break that I'm taking, but I know where I'm headed. And so, long story short, my plan is to enter law school in fall of 2021. Hopefully at UCLA, but we'll see where life takes me. Um, but that means that I have a gap year, which you'll hear a lot as a college student. And gap year or gap years, it's just time that you take in between the end of your undergraduate career um, into your grad school phase, if you choose to go to grad school. So I'm only taking one gap year. So the plan is to um, work take that year to work in a social justice organization, whether it be immigrant rights related, labor rights related, anything social justice related. Um, Policy. So I applied to a couple fellowships, and that's another crazy thing. Like everything's due, so I have like interviews. I have deadlines coming up while I'm still going to school,
Still
and
grinding. You're still grinding.
it's hard.
Grind never stops.
So I have so that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna apply for these jobs. Hopefully I get into these fellowships. Where fellowships are basically like a paid internship. That's really what it is.
Hmm.
Um, and that way I can get experience before going into law school, and just take the year to like really just connect with the community. Um, and so that's the plan. Take the gap year, um, go to law school in fall 2021, graduate in 2024. Um,
3 years?
take Yeah,
3?
23 years. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thought it was long.
Um,
I don't know why.
no, right. Me too. I thought it was gonna be like it's not like 10 years like medical school is. I don't actually that might be wrong, but it's much shorter than medical school,
Hmm.
but it's equally as intensive. But 23 years, I'll graduate in 3 years, and God willing, and then the plan is to eventually just practice law for a couple years, and eventually, honestly, I just want to work with the community. I don't want to be a politician. I don't want to be a politician, but I want to like work with and for the community. But yeah, that's the plan.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I mean, I mean, one of the main things that I took away from this conversation is that it seems to me like you really know where you want to go, and you really know, like, you already have like a plan. Like
Mm,
you're thinking ahead. As opposed to someone like me that I have ideas of where I want to go. I still don't know where I'm gonna end up. But I think it's amazing everything that you've done, everything you've accomplished, and everything you've experienced is gonna help out somebody out there. Now, talking about that, if anybody wants to find you, how can they find you? Can anybody reach out to you if they have any questions on like sociology, or if there's like any fellowships out there that are looking for somebody? Where can people find you? You wanna share
yes,
how
yes.
people can find you? Yeah.
So yes, so honestly, I think the best way to reach me is just through Instagram. Um, it's probably not a professional way to contact people, but it's the most public, I think, and the most accessible. But yeah, so I think for me, if you want to follow me or contact me through Instagram, my handle is sappy underscore Danny. It was originally mighty underscore Danny, but then I was feeling sappy, so I changed it, and I realized, that I feel like that encompasses me better, so I changed it. So anyways, you can follow me and contact me through there. So it's SAPP underscore DANIE. It's private, but if you follow me or message me, I will respond as long as you have questions. Um, but yeah, that's basically it. And I guess just to add to what you mentioned, I think most students will find themselves in a situation that you find yourself in, Maya, in the sense that most students, undergraduate is it's a time in their lives where you're really just exploring. And a lot of students, you'll see, like, a lot of students will graduate as biology, and then in 5 years they're educators and, like, as a science teacher, or they are working for a social justice organization. And I think that's what I want to make sure that I emphasize. Like, I may seem like I might have my life together and I know what I'm doing, but in 10 years, who knows, I might become a politician, even though I just said I don't want to become a politician. So, I just want to say, like, life will take you places that you will not, like, you don't expect sometimes. And it's just a matter of, like, hey, that's okay. Like, I'm being redirected. I don't know why, but there's a purpose to it. So yeah, I don't want you to think that you have to know what you're gonna do. You have to know what you're doing in 10 years, what you're gonna be doing your senior year of college. No, like, just take it one day at a time. In my case, 1 month at a time.
Yeah.
But don't feel pressured to know what you have to do. So it's all about connecting. It's about your connections, who you talk to, what relationships you build, that are going to help you figure out where you want to go and how you want to go about it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being part of my Zoomcast, my second episode. The thing that's funny is that Ada was actually my first episode, so you're like back to back.
Yeah, Ada's my roommate, so if you didn't know.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for everything. Thank you for your time. Thank you for giving us an hour out of your day. I know it's sometimes it's too much to ask, but I truly appreciate you sharing this, and I'm sure that you're gonna be helping someone out there. Somebody out there is gonna be a Regents scholar. Somebody out there is gonna be a sociology major. Somebody's gonna be graduating a year earlier. But yeah, to everybody that is watching, thank you so much. Like, subscribe, comment, and actually follow my Instagram. I made it official. I made an Instagram, EFU, EFU, but the U unexperienced. And right there, I'll be sharing like some behind the scenes or some quotes of the people that I bring on to this show. But again, like, thank you for your time. Truly appreciate it. And I hope that we're still like in contact, and in a couple of years when I have my own studio and my own mic and my podcast is like worldwide.
Yes.
I'll have to have this conversation with you, and I can't wait to see how much you're gonna. Well, for one, I can't wait to see how your experience in law school is gonna be. Um,
That's another episode.
that's another episode. But yeah, I just want to see how you're gonna continue to grow, and if you could, yeah, and yeah, you'll be able to help out people out there. Um, but yeah, that concludes our episode. Is there anything else you wanna say? Any last words?
No, just, I think we covered it all. Yeah, I think you did a good job at asking important questions, and I'm happy to be a part of it.